Yeah, I'll assume so.
Sorry, Tony, it's Jennifer who's clacking
All
me
right.
today. I'm just still watching in.
All right, okay, no bother. Sorry, Jennifer. Okay, item 2 in the agenda, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 3 then, the mixed tenure scheme and report, I presume, Phil or Andy?
Thank you, Tony. The purpose of this report is to advise the Cabinet on the current circumstances with regard to the expiry of the contract with the Council's third-party provider for the management of the mixed tenure scheme. As the Cabinet paper notes, the contract with the third-party contractor Verge expired in 2019. Unfortunately, due to an oversight, the retendering process wasn't started on time. When this was recognised and the retendering process began just prior to March 2020, it was then further delayed due to staff having to deal with emerging COVID-related issues such as sheltered complexes, homeless provision, etc. Members should note that a system is being put in place to prevent such a thing happening again by automatically alerting staff to contract end dates, and this is noted at paragraph 17. I assume most members will know the background to the mixed tenure scheme, but for those that don't, the background is explained between paragraphs 3 to paragraphs 9. When it was realised that the contract had come to an end, it was felt that without the mixed tenure scheme continuing, the condition of the mixed tenure estates would deteriorate significantly during lockdown and would place existing pressure on the existing council services. Given all of the circumstances outlined, the contract was allowed to continue to run on a monthly basis as the same terms as before, especially taking into account that the previously tendered rates were competitive and given the satisfaction levels with the high quality of the service. During lockdown, the mixed tenure scheme were able to assist the council in a number of areas, such as delivering food parcels and equipment to vulnerable residents in East Renfrewshire, assisted the wider Environment Department in providing bank holiday cover, sanitised handrails and door handles in a number of the sheltered complexes, and removed waste that had resulted in an increase in fly tipping as a result of the tips being closed. By way of context, I wish to advise that it's unlikely that any financial detriment to the council has occurred. Budget provision did exist for the service, and the service provider had previously won the tender, demonstrating best value. As I said earlier, a mechanism has been put in place to prevent contract renewals being missed in the future, and on that basis, I'd be happy to recommend this report to the Cabinet. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Phil, for that. I'm happy to open it up, colleagues, for any comments.
Tony.
Councillor Merrick.
Just a minor comment. So it's great that the mixed tenure staff were able to help with the response to the pandemic, but does that mean that we will get that money back as a council because we had to do a COVID response, or do we know how that will be organised? I mean, are we quids in at the minute with Ferg or not? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't think we know the details of any post-COVID settlement in relation to. I think there's some details still to be established. I don't think I'm in a position to answer that question.
Too early to get there yet. That's okay, Phil. It was just to raise the point. Thank you.
And
Tony,
Councillor Devlin.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask, the oversight of, somebody forgot, does that individual work for the housing department or did it work for another department? Is it procurement they work for? Phil,
they work for the housing service.
They work for the housing service.
Yes.
So obviously the situation hopefully is going to be remedied very shortly. We'll go to tendering again.
Oh yes, the retender process has already begun.
Right. I mean, also remember, the mixed tenure sorry, the mixed tenure scheme, if we had to shut that down over the lockdown, God help us, the estates would be full of rubbish, it'd be so untidy, wouldn't it? It'd take us years and years to get back to where before. That's very important. It's a service we just can't, we couldn't stop it, then come back years later and start it again. It'd take years to get to the position we're in now. And it's great to see the work they do in the estates. Without them, God knows what we would do and try to tidy up the estates. They do a brilliant work in Duntilly, Craighead, Zuckenbach, Mearns Village, all throughout East Renfrewshire. Long may it continue.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Councillor Lafferty.
Where's it? All right. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Oh, good. On the question of the re-tendering, I'm a bit sympathetic to the plight of the housing staff who, on top of dealing with this re-tendering exercise, dealing with the implications of the COVID-19 across the whole authority. I think all departments of the council are dealing with the demands placed upon them. Like Councillor Devlin, I highly appreciate, and many of the residents and other elected members, I highly appreciate the mixed tenure scheme. I think it targets funding to where it can be used most effectively, and to ensure that all our residents have the support and a decent home environment while the council is in charge. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lafferty. And Councillor Bamford.
Thanks, Chair. I'm glad, Phil, that there's now plans in place to ensure that these renewals come up, just like we all get every year with our house insurance and car insurance and whatever. We get flagged up beforehand to say, here you go, here's your new renewal. So I am surprised that hasn't been done in all departments, not just housing. I am surprised it's not across the board. However, going forward, I'm glad we're now doing that. The question I want to ask is, how much did we pay the company the previous year? I'm assuming what we're asked to pay this year is in line with what their charges were the previous year. So is it round about the same? Is it substantially more, or is it less? Can you just clarify the difference, if any?
No, there was no price increase added as a result of moving forward to a further year.
So probably if we had gone out to tender, we would have probably had to pay. So it looks like we're paying what we would have paid even if we'd gone out to tender. I know that's making great assumptions because we didn't go out to tender. However, the chances are it wouldn't have cost more, and we already knew the kind of standard that this company provided for us.
That would appear to be a logical assumption. Yes, I think so.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Okay. Again, thanks everyone for their comments. I think it's worth noting.
Sorry,
Annie,
can I come in for another question? It's okay.
Yeah, on you go. On you go.
Always remember, the mixed tenure scheme was set up to take unemployed kids off the streets in East Renfrewshire and put them into employment. We employed 12 individuals that were unemployed. We've put them into employment. A lot of them have been there 5-6 years and they love their job. And to take this service away, we'd be making 12 individuals redundant. That's very important to remember. I know the council have got a no redundancy policy, so hopefully that curtails the mixed tenure as well.
No, okay, thanks, Danny. Yeah, I was just going to actually mention some of that. I think it is unfortunate that the tender was missed at the appropriate time, and it's good to know that we've got process in place to pick up on that, because I think they do get picked up in other areas. We've seen renewal of tenders in a variety of areas, particularly for IT, over the last few months, and similar difficulties because of the pandemic and the issues that has created. It has made it somewhat more difficult to ensure that all of these things are tackled appropriately. That said, I think the housing tenure scheme has been a great success. We know the benefits, we all see the benefits, some of us on a daily basis, around many of our estates, and it makes a significant difference to the lives of the people there. But it also makes a difference to the lives of those involved in the team. We are more than aware that, as Danny just touched on, that the work that gets carried out is carried out by local people. It's carried out by some of our previously care experience children. So the opportunities that it has created have been significant and substantial, and that adds to the success of the team in many respects. So from that point of view, I think we are all more than happy with the service that has been provided. With that said, I'll be happy then, colleagues. The recommendations is to note that the contract with Verge for the third party mixed tenure scheme provider it expired on November 19, and due to an oversight and subsequently coronavirus related issues, the contract was not re-tendered within the timescale required. Note that the tendered contract was considered to have provided from December 2015 important high quality services and value for money. And note that the reasons for the outlined in this report, the contract has been continued on the previous terms and conditions and competitively tendered rates between the period of December 2019 and February 2021 at a projected cost of £375,000. And should the Cabinet agree to extend this current, we are more than happy, I presume, that we will continue to do so. The total expenditure is above EU threshold, but it's appropriate under the Public Contracts Scotland Regulations of 2015, Regulation 33(1)(c), which permits a negotiated contract without prior publication for reasons of urgency due to events unforeseen by the contracting authority, as has been the case in this situation, and approve the continued use of the contract on this basis until the 31st of March 2021, which is within the budgetary provision which had been made for the scheme over that period, and note that the contract will be competitively re-tendered from the 31st of March 2021. I'd be happy with those recommendations, colleagues. Thank you, much appreciated. If we now move on to item 4 on the agenda and the estimated revenue budget outturn for 2021, and Margaret.
Thanks, Chair. This is the latest, sorry, Trum's trying to phone.
Hello.
Hello, you're still here there, Bennett?
I'm just
Margaret's just
vanished.
Hello.
Hi, Margaret. Yeah.
Am I back with you again?
Back with
Sorry
us,
about
yeah.
that. Someone tried to Teams call me in the middle of that there, and it seems to have done something on my system. Anyway, I'm back. This is just the report on the usual revenue monitoring, and this time we're looking at the forecast based in the figures until the 31st of October last year. That's the 4th monitoring report for the year, and I'm glad to see that it continues a trend of showing improvement on the previous position reported to Cabinet. Last time we reported to you was the 22nd of October. This time, on the basis of the latest information, we're looking at a year-end overspend for the general fund services of 409,000. That's just 0.2% of the annual budget. The reasons for that are all set out in the report across the various departments, but underlying that 409,000 overspend position, we've actually got 2.838 million of unfunded COVID pressures, which are putting us into an overspend position. But these have been offset by 2.429 million of managed council underspends, stopping non-essential spend, dragging vacancies, and just minimising wherever we possibly can. And that's got us back to only 400,000 of an overspend at the moment. The big improvement since last report is around about £2 million, and the largest element of that is a reassessment of our council-wide PPE requirements. We'd forecast at the very beginning of the pandemic what we thought we might need, and it wasn't clear at that time whether any departments would be getting any funding for their needs, or whether the IGIB would have to be funded, or its PPE would be channeled through the council. We've now got clarity on all these points, and we've been able to very substantially reduce our forecast for PPE for the council now. So that's the main movement in there. The forecast also reflects both confirmed and anticipated government funding to address various COVID pressures. And in particular, this report still had assumptions on the level of support that would be available for lost income from various departments in the trust. That's since been updated, but these figures don't yet reflect that. Directors have taken action to stop, as I say, all non-essential expenditure. And together with the fiscal flexibilities that have been announced in the utilisation of reserves, we believe that we'll be able to manage this gap and bring us in within budget at the end of the year. We're still waiting for some detail on fiscal flexibilities, but broadly we think that that'll be enough to cover us. As I always say, the forecast is subject to significant change still, because it was prepared before we knew the extent of the extended lockdown period, and that is going to have an impact on the income prospects for the trust in particular, and it will also impact in some other departments too. So the figures will keep changing yet, and we'll bring you another report on the 4th of March, I think, is the next scheduled cabinet report. And in the meantime, we're asking everyone just to absolutely keep tight check on all the spend. So as usual, we're asking you to approve the budget adjustments in the report and note the position, and just confirm that departments should once again do all we can to monitor and keep expenditure under control.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Margaret. Again, these reports, I think, have been excellent in terms of, we know that they're always regularly subject to change, depending on the conditions in which we find ourselves. Hopefully, we will continue to improve. We know that the Scottish budget announcement will be this afternoon, and that will throw further light on some of the aspects that we've touched on. Certainly, I think a credit to yourself and to all of our directors and heads of service that have worked on this paper in bringing us to this position. We know the significant difficulties that there has been, the additional spend pressures because of COVID, and as much as funding does trickle through for that, we know that it's been an extremely difficult task to manage that, and we hope that we will see some light at the end of the tunnel in relation to that. Happy to open it up for any comments from colleagues. No. On that basis, then, I'll be happy to note the recommendations that we approve the service requirements and operational adjustments set out on the tables in pages 14 to 29, and the significant imported improvement on the probable outturn position. Instructed departments to continue to avoid all non-essential spending at the present time. Manage the action is taken to remedy any avoidable forecast overspends, and that all departments continue to closely monitor their probable outturn position. I'll be happy with those recommendations, colleague. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone, for your time this morning. Hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of your day. I shall see again some of you relatively soon. Thanks very much, colleagues, and stay well.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.